bear hugs, high fives, handshakes, laughter. What a great scene.
Tonight is going to be fun. Our next guest is too. He's no stranger to these two teams facing off in the World Series. Back in 2006, he was drafted by the Indians in the 5th round. He was then traded to the Cubs. Then in 2011, he was traded to the Rays, where he played for current Cubs manager in Joe Maddon. We welcome Chris Archer to the show, who joins our own Stephen A. Smith in Cleveland ahead of tonight's World Series Game 1. Thank you so much for being with us, Chris. Stephen A., take it away, my friend.
So you're here because you in town, no doubt supporting some of your former peeps. I get all of that. But you felt the need to tweet me. Do I put no, he could put this on. He could put I'm not putting this on. Go ahead, put it on.
No, I'm gonna pass.
All right, you gonna pass, you gonna pass. Maybe later. But let me ask you this question. First of all, what you doing here? Specifically,
yes,
and
sir.
Secondly, what did you have a problem with me for? What you tweeted me for?
Okay.
What's the problem?
Okay, all right. So I'm here doing some World Series coverage with ESPN, and I saw you dogging on my boy Kershaw yesterday. You were giving him a hard time, man, so I wanted to come up and see what the problem was.
Are you going to sit here? Listen, Kershaw is one of the best pitchers ever. But are you going to sit here and defend his record in the postseason?
I'm not necessarily defending his record in the postseason, but he is worth his contract because as a general manager making a business decision, you're looking at what he provides you over 34 or 35 starts during the regular season. He's better than anybody in the world at that. The postseason, I feel like it's more of an anomaly than it is actually who he is.
So in other words, what you're saying, Chris, who happens to be a pitcher, by the way, what you're saying is that even though you show up to work once every 5 days, and even though you don't necessarily produce in the postseason when it counts, and even though you ain't a Madison Bumgarner, it's all right for you to get $215 million.
That contract is what the market dictates.
Oh, so that's where we going. So that's where we going.
Right
okay,
about
it's the market.
Stephen A., Chris is right about that, but Chris, that's a lot of anomalies in the postseason. At a certain point, you don't get infinite chances. Eventually, you have to be at least your normal self in the postseason, let alone elevate as Bumgarner does, as Mariano Rivera did, as Andrew Miller's doing right now. I know he's a relief pitcher, but still, Kershaw hasn't done that. You can't keep calling it an anomaly, can you?
No. I see what you mean, and I think it's 5 or 6 games that have really skewed his numbers. He's had 6 or 7 great games as well. So I think we need to look a little bit deeper, a little bit beyond just strictly ERA. He does have an inning or two here or there where he does struggle.
Yeah, but Chris, that you can't brush past that, because in 35 starts, he doesn't have 6 starts like he has in 10 or 12 starts in the postseason. He gets worse under pressure, period.
Right. So if you're a general manager, you're not putting him in your starting rotation for the playoffs. Is that what you're telling me?
Of course I'm signing him to that contract. No doubt.
I got him, Max. Don't worry. Here's the deal. See, that's real slick of you, because nobody's saying that he's not in your starting rotation. What we're debating is whether a pitcher who doesn't produce under pressure in the postseason is worth $215 million.
Your team would not even be in the postseason.
How you know that? I'm sorry.
Not true, Chris.
Does San Francisco have? Does San Francisco have Clayton Kershaw? Did the St. Louis Cardinals have Clayton Kershaw?
The past 4 seasons, the Dodgers would have not made the postseason if he was not a part of that.
Well, he was gone for 2 months. They were doing fine without him this year.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know about that, because you're assuming you replace him with a replacement level player. That money would be earmarked for another ace. And are you telling me Kershaw is 6 to 8 wins, which is usually the margin of victory for the Dodgers in that division, over the next ace? Because he's not 6 to 8 wins better than those other guys, and he only threw 150 innings this year.
Okay, let me rephrase. You don't know what you would get with someone else, but you know what you're going to get with him. You made it to the playoffs.
Yep.
He can be better in the playoffs, yes, but 30 other teams are going to take him and give him market value based on what he does in the regular season.
Let me say this, because I want to get to the Cubs and the Indians in this World Series.
Yes,
let me make this last point. When I think about Madison Bumgarner, here's what I think about. Here, take me to the promised land. It's the postseason. It's a championship on the line. I need you to do this.
He's one of one.
I can rely on that. If I can't rely on that from you, I ain't giving you $200 million. It's just that simple. Now let me get to the World Series.
Okay, all right.
Who you got?
I like Cleveland. I like Cleveland. You know, this is why. This is why. First of all, they were smart enough to draft me in 2006.
Okay.
So they got that on their side.
Okay.
I love their bullpen. I love what Andrew Miller can do.
I'm very upset he's not with the Yankees, but go ahead.
Or Chapman, for that matter. I love Lindor. I love the energy that he brings. Their defense is top notch. They have Corey Kluber on the mound tonight, who I think is one of a legitimate ace in the big leagues.
ERA under 1, but that's going to change tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll see. But there's so many factors. I like that they have home field advantage. I like that the American League team won the World Series or won the All-Star game, gave them home field advantage. I think that's going to be huge for them.
Who you got, Max?
In the series or tonight?
Yeah. What are we talking about? What did we just finish talking
series,
about?
Man.
I
The
like
series,
the Cubs. I like the Cubs. I think the Cubs, you win 103 games in a regular season. You got arms that can miss bats. I like the Cubs. But I want to ask you about Andrew Miller since you brought him up, Chris.
No. Hold it. Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
You said for the last several weeks you were taking the field.
Yep.
Now you're taking the Cubs?
Right. The field is now
He's
one team.
taking the easy route, man. He's taking the easy route.
No. The field is now one team. When the field is 8 teams or 4 teams, I like the field. When the field is 1 team, I like the Cubs.
You said the Cubs. By taking the field instead of the Cubs, you're saying under no circumstances are the Cubs going to win the World Series.
No.
Now you're saying they are going to win it.
When the field turns to 1 team, I now like the Cubs. It proves my point, actually. Hey, Chris, let me ask you this, Chris.
Who you got?
Chris, wait a minute. No. I didn't get my prediction.
Go ahead.
I didn't get my prediction. You hear me get my prediction? Did you hear that? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm brave. I'm going with destiny. I got to go with the Cubs.
What's wrong with you?
I picked the Cubs. Unlike Max, I picked the Cubs before the playoffs arrived. And I'm staying with the Cubs.
He did. He took them against the field. Hey, Chris, let me ask you this. You like Cleveland.
I'm not waffling. I'm staying with the Cubs.
Chris, you like Cleveland, and you brought up Andrew Miller, and the fact that they have Cody Allen, they have a closer, so they can use Andrew Miller as a relief ace. Guy on second base, they're up a run, fewer than 2 outs. Bring in a guy just to get the guys out. That's what Andrew Miller is for them. Is that the reason you like the Indians? Is that the X factor?
I think, yes, the X factor for me is the versatility of Andrew Miller. All the Indians have to do is get 15 outs. And then the game after that is pretty much on lock. Just like you've seen with the Royals in the past and with the other good playoff teams in the past, they have a lockdown bullpen. And I'm not saying that Chicago doesn't, but I feel like right now Chicago's the easy pick, and I'm going the hard route.
I'm gonna give the show back to Molly. I'm gonna give the show back to Molly. What amazes me is that even though you both picked the Indians, you actually wanted to come on this show because of Kershaw.
No, that's not it.
And then Chris,
I
you
wanted
got
to come on because I
smoked.
respect you, man.
You know it.
Chris, you came on the show to defend Kershaw and got smoked.
No, I didn't get smoked, man.
You got
I didn't get
smoked.
smoked.
You can pitch,
My condolences. It's all
Chris
love,
Archer
baby.
can
It's
pitch.
all love.
Sign
He
with the
takes that
Yankees
L
when you
every
can,
day.
Chris.
You do it better. It's okay. It's okay.
Sign with the Yanks when you can,
go.
Chris.
Chris, you brought it. Thank you so much for joining us here on First Take. To learn more about how you can help Chris help youth live, grow, and thrive, please go to archwayfoundation.com. He has a golf tournament coming up. Check that out. After the break, the issue of national anthem protests will be on the forefront with the NBA regular season opening tonight. What can we expect from NBA players during the anthem? Find out that next. Welcome back to a special edition of First Take. Stephen A. is live in Believe Land, where the crowd is fired up. There they are, about the World Series and the Cavs getting their rings again. We appreciate you guys all coming out. The NBA season kicks off tonight, where the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers host the New York Knicks. Last month, LeBron said he supported Colin Kaepernick's right to protest the anthem, but he plans on standing. And Carmelo Anthony said he admires Kaepernick's protest, but says he will also stand. So unlike the NFL, the NBA has a rule that states players must stand respectfully during the playing of the national anthem before all games. Max, should players be protesting tonight?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. The answer is yes, they should, and I'll tell you why. Because they should follow their conscience. And if there are 450 players in the league, 30 teams, 15 players on each roster, 450 players, and 1% of them feel that their conscience is telling them that they want to do this, and I would say based on what we've seen in the NFL, that's a pretty good guess. That's 4 or 5 guys who probably don't want to stand to make a statement. And if that's the case, especially we see this way this divides NFL locker rooms along racial lines, it's a youth issue, it's among African Americans especially, and this is a predominantly African American league, the NBA. If 4 or 5 guys at least conscience is telling them, that's 1% of the league, I shouldn't stand, then they shouldn't. Especially because the commissioner, Adam Silver, has shown himself so far to be seemingly a socially conscious person who's encouraged protest on social issues. Whatever you think of whether it's right or wrong to stand, what it shows, whether it's immature or whether it's a responsible and courageous protest, whatever your feeling is, we know that many feel it's the right thing to do as a percentage of the population, even 1% in a large country. As I mentioned, that's 4 or 5 guys in the league. And if Adam Silver is, in fact, this kind of commissioner, and he inherited the rule, in the NFL, you're not obligated to stand. In the NBA, you are by the rule. If he inherited this rule, this is a good excuse to bring it to a head where he can actually either choose not to enforce it, and then we see it's a toothless rule, or he can maybe take it off the books or start that process. So I think it's important that the players follow what they think is right, and based on the numbers, I gotta believe there's at least a handful of players who would think it's right.
Max, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, as shocking as that may be, on this particular issue in terms of whether or not the players should protest tonight. Here's why. First of all, the statements have already been made. They've been made profoundly so. Now we've graduated to a point where we have to start asking ourselves, what exactly are you going to do with the noise that has been made by Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and other various players throughout the NFL community? In the NBA, yes, there is a rule that stipulates you must stand to honor the national anthem. Yes, Colin Kaepernick took his position because he wanted to bring attention to racial injustice and prejudices that have been taking place in our community. But there comes a point in time where simply raising your fist or getting on one knee, the point is made. Now what are you going to do about it? Because certainly we have the bodies, we have the resources, and enough people in our nation are conscientious enough to take this to another level. When Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James introed the ESPYs to bring attention to some of the things that have taken place. Yes, it wasn't a polarizing issue because the things that they said and what they were bringing attention to, nobody could disagree with it, whereas people could disagree with Colin Kaepernick. And as wrong as I think those people were to disagree with him, because Colin Kaepernick did specifically point out that in no way was he pointing his finger at our military servicemen and women who honorably represent our nation and serve and protect us. The fact of the matter is there are a plethora of people within the United States of America that have adopted that position. And because they've adopted that position, you never know what the fallout is going to be. And we don't think enough about that sometimes. Certainly that shouldn't dissuade you from taking stances. But at the same time, you've got to reach a point where you're willing to ask yourself, how effective is it going to be, A, and B, what is the potential fallout to the potential benefit of it? We got a presidential election that has clearly divided our nation. You're forced to take one side or another. Colin Kaepernick has forced you to take one side or another. Everybody wants to stand up and tell these NBA players, even the average one or the less than average ones, the ones that are lucky to have a job, all right, take this position and fight for this and fight for that. And ain't a damn one of those individuals going to be around to help pay your bills when you can't find a damn job because you're being ostracized or victimized. I'm taking all of that into consideration. If none of this had ever happened, I would get you. But the fact that Colin Kaepernick and others have made the noise that they've made, and let us not forget that the NBA and the Players Association are in the throes of a collective bargaining agreement.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
And you've got to put yourself in a position where you can make some noise and you don't jeopardize the kind of cachet that you're building with that audience you're looking to patronize your product. You got to take all those things into consideration and be smart.
I certainly respect that position. I think it's well thought out. I'm not arguing that you have to take a stance. I'm saying you should follow your conscience. And it's awfully convenient because there's a lot of money on the line in the CBA right now for some to argue to players. I'm not arguing that you're saying that here, but for some to get in players' ears now and say there's a tremendous amount of money on the line. This time, it's inconvenient to follow your conscience, so don't do it. You know, it seems to me like that's an awfully convenient thing to do. And when you get kind of the most credit and when I think you make the most change is when it's inconvenient to follow your conscience, which it would be here. I just think the players should do what they feel is right.
Yeah, but sometimes what you think is right is detrimental to you and detrimental to the overall agenda. If this hadn't happened, that's one thing. But when the noise has already been made, chances are you're going to create more cynicism and bring more vitriol your way. But at the same time, it's not going to be effective. If it was going to really affect change, if it were a LeBron James or somebody of that magnitude, you would have a point. But LeBron James already said he's standing for the national anthem. He's not somebody that's going to take a knee or raise a fist. So if he's already taken that position and the pop